Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. We're going to do something a little bit different today. I know quite often on a Saturday when we can get a special guest, we often have one. And we've got one or two coming up for you between now and the end of the season. But what we'd like to do today, bearing in mind in particular we're a Nottinghamshire club, and we've got basically, I think it's fair to say, a hell of a lot of Nottingham Forest supporters who also support us. So this is something that sadly happened on Christmas Day, and we're going to talk about it with Ian. Please put your hands together for our ambassador and one of Forest Gate, Ian Storey-Moore. And Jim Carver's just walked in, so let's give us all a boost. How are you, my friend?
Okay, yeah. I think we're going to have a good talk because, talking about John Robertson now, probably one of Forest's greatest players, if not Forest's greatest player. But however, he was such a, because of his ability, John. But he was such a, let me tell you, he was such a humble person, John. He liked to laugh, he liked to joke, didn't he, Mick? And when we asked him to come to Carlton, he came, and he was such a nice guy and a pleasant company to be with me.
I can ask you, Ian, how did you first meet him? I know you were at Forest until '72. Was John there when you were there, or was it before? Tell me the story.
Yeah, well, I'd been at Forest for about probably 5 or 6 years before John came to the football club. John came down from Scotland. I think he was such a schoolboy, international, youth international, very talented young man. And he came to Nottingham Forest. I think it was about probably the late 60s, early 70s, I believe. And when you looked at John, you think, how is he going to be a player? He's sort of, quite obese, really, and I shouldn't say fat. But anyhow, he soon got into the swing of things, Robbo, and he said, as we all know, he soon became, when he went through the ranks of youth team, I remember we used to go down and watching him play in the youth team, you could just see he got that special ability, that sort of other players don't have. That perceptive range of passing skills, you got go past people, score goals, and get great crosses into the box. So, you can see in those early days that John had a wonderful array of ability, and of course that blossomed as time went on, Mick.
There was a story that I heard, and I know it goes back. I don't think it goes on now. But the apprentices, the young lads, at least used to clean the boots of the stars, and then fair to say you were a star. Who cleaned your boots?
Well, actually, when I first came to the football club, that was our job. We were on the ground staff, not like they do now. They don't have to clean the dressing rooms and the boots and do the groundwork now that we had to do. So we had to clean the first team players' boots every Monday morning after a game. So eventually, when I broke into the first team, who would you believe cleaned my boots? But the great John Robertson. The problem I had with John was he played hell with me one Christmas. I didn't give him a tip. We used to give him a tenner tip or something. But I had some white boots in those days. Would you believe me? He was black shoe, probably something. And you wonder why I didn't give him a tip, but he always talked about that now. The old pal Robbo, and there's loads of stories about Robbo, but in those early days, I thought it was quite amusing, Nick.
It's a story in itself. The fact that he cleaned white. I mean, was that a thing having white boots, or was you showing off?
I've been showing off. I've just come into fruition then, haven't the white boots, and I think one or two of the players are using them. But anyhow, he made a right mess of me. I give him a right bollock, and anyhow, we still remain friends. And as I said earlier, you could see Robbo going from here, there, up a bit more, and of course, eventually to absolute stardom, didn't he? And eventually scored a goal in the European Cup, made another goal in the other one. So, well, wonderful career he eventually had, John.
There's a story, and you perhaps know more about it than me. That you'd obviously left the club, and John at that point, I think when Clough and Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were away on a trip, and they got to the stage with Robbo where they completely lost temper with him, and they lost patience with him. They sent him back to the hotel, and he thought he was being sent home, and then the door opened, and was it Peter Taylor who walked in? What did you hear?
Well, I think both of them actually. I think they realised that John was going to be a talented player, but probably losing his way somewhat at the time. be like to budget, 40 a day at one time. In fact, when I was working at Aston Villa, when we used to go down together some mornings and used to get absolutely stunk of lads, honestly. And Martin O'Neill, the manager, used to say to me, he said, his car doesn't go in for service, it goes in for scan. So, he's, is it not working? Oh, that way, sorry, is that better? So his car went in for a scan, he didn't have a service because he spoke that many fags, Robbo. So, Bucking Taylor, I think they realised what a great player John was going to be, so I think, John was going for a bit of a torrid time with family matters, etc., and I think everything was getting him down. And anyhow, I think they gave him a good talking to. They said, "Well, listen, if you don't, we're going to get rid of you, John. If you don't improve and do what we tell you to do, we're going to get rid of you." So I think from that day one, John took the words on board, and from that day, I think we all knew that how the wonderful ability that he had to start to shine through.
Did you, obviously, you moved on, we mentioned that you moved on to Manchester United, you stood from a distance and saw his career, William at Forest.
Oh, yeah.
Did you keep in touch with him, Ian?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We've been friends, I say, since he was 15, and, it was a joy to watch his career blossom. I think I worked for the local radio at one time, and we used to go and watch the youth team play. Mick and Ian, as I said earlier, you could see in those early days that John was going to be a top player, and of course he proved to be as the years went by, Mick. Yeah, and the season progressed, and he ended up having an absolutely wonderful career, didn't he? Two European Cup winners, league title, played for Scotland. So, he had a wonderful career. It's just been a sad loss at such a young age to see poor old John pass away. We used to go to I think he'd been in hospital for about 4 months in the city hospital. He eventually moved into Hayward House, which was next door to the hospital, and you could see him ebbing away very slowly, unfortunately. But all I used to go and see him whenever we could, and we stuck with him until the end. And unfortunately, he died on Christmas Day. Yeah. And I must say, if I may say so about his wife, she was absolutely brilliant. She used to go to she worked every morning and went to the hospital every day to see him, to the city hospital, and save him for hour after hour, and you have to admire her for that, Mick, and such a wonderful woman, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You say I got to know him, not as well as yourself, but I did get to know him. He came down here, and true story, guys. First speakers he did here, and I didn't know him then particularly well. I'd got to know him over the years, and he pulled me. He'd come over and he said, "Can I have a word with the chairman?" I think I was up at the bar, and he came in and he said, "Robbo wants a word with you." And he said, "Have you got any runners?" And I said, "Runners?" He goes, "Yeah, runners." And I goes, "Do you mean odd job people type who might help or something?" Yeah, that's what I mean. And I can't do his Scottish accent. I won't even try me because all these people down here will start taking the piss. So can't leave that. Anyway, cut a long story short. Basically, I got Chapo who used to help out down here. One or two of you remember Chapo. I said, "John wants a job doing. What is it you want, Robbo? What do you want doing? Can you send him up to the local shop and give me 20 fags?" True story.
Well, he's like that at home, actually, when you went round to his house, actually, his poor wife, "Cheryl, can you come and turn the television over? Cheryl, cup of tea, please." Couldn't do a thing for himself, Robbo, but he used to laugh about it. Not a thing. I thought I was better around the house, but not as bad as my pal.
Brilliant. Affectionately, and you're known here, somebody comes and has a coffee, and I think the most I've ever seen you drink is a half.
Yeah.
Obviously, Robbo had a reputation for liking a beer or two. Did you ever go out with him? Did you ever go on a night out with him?
Yeah, especially when Dave Bassett was a manager down at Forest. Dave used to invite myself out and Robbo, and we used to have a great night. I think it was on a Thursday night when I think Paul Hart joined it as well, and so it's quite an enjoyable evening, actually. And I think it was the first time Robbo started to drink red wine, actually. Is that better? Oh, sorry. I'm not professional at that. Yeah, so Robbo started to drink the red wine and loved it ever since, Mick. So, and of course, it's 40 fags a day and a glass of red wine and a bit of Roxy music, a bit of Status Quo and a bit of the Rolling Stones, and that was Robbo. Loved it.
And he came. Sorry, it's me now. He came here. I remember one particular Christmas do, and he was our guest speaker in Christmas. Then you might shed some light on this side of his personality. But the first one he came here, he talked about his career and all that sort of thing at Brian Clough. The second one, and we were expecting pretty much the same, but he basically did a full comedy set. Dave, he did a full comedy set, didn't he? Really? Yeah. So did he repeat his jokes? Or?
Oh, listen, we we've got this Thursday club, haven't we, mate? Meet on a Thursday, and when Robbo did used to come, and we got the same jokes week in, week out. He knew it from back to front, actually, but he loved to tell, and he used to tap the glasses and wanted to sing a Rolling Stones song and keep the lads happy. But it was a great character, really down to earth sort of guy, and to consider what a great footballer he was, Mick, for him to be so down to earth, wanting to mix with people, no airs and graces about it. Just a lovely, humble young being.
The last time I actually saw him was in the local pub, the Dorset Arms, and I'm going back. I can't remember the night. Alan will probably remember it better than me. And I remember this. The last time I saw him, I was going up to the bar and I'd stopped to watch the football on the screen, and he was on a table, and it was a Coventry Manchester United game, and you basically should have won the game. I think we had a very unlucky decision when against you that game. But that was the last time I saw him. But he stood with me, watched the game, and the one thing he said is, I haven't forgot about Carlton, I will come back. Obviously, he's not been able to because his health deteriorated. But, he said that. He generally said that.
You said to me, does that make Garton never buy a drink?
I think I'm always one or two down here, man. I think, in fairness. I think I better move on very quickly. Ian, after his career had finished on the football pitch, did you ever come across him at... if I've got this right, you worked with him? Was it
we worked at Villa together. Him, myself, Martin O'Neill, and I got Martin was the manager, of course, Robbo. And I said we used to travel down together some mornings and sit in his car. And I haven't got lung cancer now, I'll never know. But my word, he got in the car, it just stunk of fags, guys. Absolutely stunk of fags. There's tin cans all over the floor. Said it wasn't.
Sounds like a decent search.
Yeah, so I think what it was, I think Robert really enjoyed working with Martin O'Neill, and Martin had been good to him, and he took him on board. I think he started at Leicester with him, didn't he? Then went up to Celtic with him, and very, very successful up there, were they up there, and then on to Aston Villa, where Martin was really successful there, to be honest with you, and I think we finished in the top 6 every time Robbo and whilst Robbo and Martin were there. So yeah, he had a successful career. On the field and off it, I would say, mate.
What would you say his attributes were? Obviously, O'Neill being the boss.
Yeah.
Robbo as a coach, what would you say his attributes would have been in dealing with the players and that side of things?
I don't think particularly Robbo was wanting to do any coaching, really, but I think he's one of these people that could get round players, have a quiet word with them, Mick, and, just suggest they might do this, suggest they might do that. So he wasn't one that was go and do a session on a coaching thing, no. Is left up to a guy called Wally, who Martin took on board. But I think the main thing that about Robbo, that he was respected by all the players because of his wonderful ability as a player. So when he said something to them, they would take it on board and they would accept it because it'd come from a quality man and a quality player.
And finally, I'd just like you to sum up your memories. Just to finish it off nicely, and somebody you knew as a friend, somebody you knew as a great footballer. I was here the night when he was described as Forest's greatest ever player. I think there'd been a vote, and he actually stood up in the room and said, "No, the man standing there is Forest's greatest ever player." That's how much he thought of you. So just finish us off, Ian, with
well, vice versa. I used to feel the world about him. It doesn't really matter about things like that as far as we were concerned. We were just good friends, and we all respected each other's ability, and just got away in that respect. I think, as I said early to you, for someone with such ability and such a claim he got within the game that he could be such a humble person. If he was here now, he'd be having a laugh with everybody. He would get on with everybody and have a drink with people after the game. He just loved life, Robbo, and it was just so sad just to see him going downhill over the last probably 18 months to 2 years. Would you say, mate? So very sad, but I hope you all go outside before the game starts. So minutes of applause. Minutes of applause before the game. I appreciate if you do that in remembrance of him, if you would, please. He's such a super guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, for John Robertson, Ian Storey-Moore, thank you very much for listening.